Everyone has debt. It's the modern reality of being alive. You go to college because society tells you education is the path to success. You take out loans because it's the only way to afford tuition. You graduate believing you've invested in yourself. And then you spend the next 20 years paying for that investment. Sofia Martinez was no different. She graduated from Georgetown University with a degree in business economics and a debt of $237,000. That's not an exaggeration. That's the exact number she thought about every single morning when she woke up. That's the weight she carried into every job interview, every relationship, every decision about the future. The loans were from multiple sources: federal loans, private loans, parent plus loans her parents had taken out and then defaulted on, leaving the burden on her. And additional private loans she'd had to take after the first round wasn't enough. She was smart, accomplished, and fundamentally broke. At 28 years old, Sofia had been working as a business analyst at a mid-sized consulting firm for 4 years. The salary was good, $95,000 a year. But after taxes, student loan payments, $1,400 a month, rent in Washington, D.C., $1,800 a month, and basic living expenses, she had about $200 left over each month. She wasn't poor, but she wasn't building a life. She was just maintaining, existing in a holding pattern while her debt slowly, incrementally, maybe eventually got paid off. And then everything changed. One Tuesday morning, Sofia received an email that made no sense. The subject line said, "Your student loans have been paid in full, no action required." She thought it was a scam. She checked her email address again. It was definitely sent to her. She clicked the link carefully, half expecting a virus. Instead, she found herself on her loan servicer's website, and her account showed a balance of $0. All $237,000 had been paid off overnight. There were no details about who paid it. There was just a transaction code and a message: payment made anonymously, all remaining balance fulfilled. Sofia sat at her desk staring at the screen for 10 minutes. Then she called her loan servicer directly. "Ma'am, the funds were transferred from an offshore account this morning," the representative said. "The payer requested anonymity. Unfortunately, I can't provide more information than that." "But who would do this?" Sofia asked, her voice shaking. "I'm not sure, ma'am. Do you have any wealthy relatives, or perhaps someone you helped who might be repaying you?" Sofia hung up the phone and tried to think. Who would pay off a stranger's student loans? Nobody. That didn't happen. That wasn't real. And yet it was. For the next 3 days, Sofia tried to figure out who had done this. She looked through her emails, her texts, her social media messages. Was there anyone who might do something like this? Anyone who had the means and the motive? No one. She told her parents, who were equally confused. She told her best friend Catalina, who said, "Oh my God, you have a sugar daddy and don't even know it." Sofia didn't laugh. She was unsettled. Someone out there knew her name, knew her financial situation, and had decided to pay off a $250,000 debt without her permission. That wasn't generous, that was controlling, that was obsessive. She tried to move forward with her life, but the unknown gnawed at her. Every time her phone buzzed, she wondered if it was the mysterious benefactor. Every time she got an email, she checked the sender's name carefully. Every time she walked down the street, she wondered if someone was watching her. A week passed, then 2 weeks. No contact, no explanation. Sofia went back to her normal life. She threw herself into work. She had lunch with Catalina. She went to her yoga classes. She tried to forget about the phantom who had given her $237,000. And then one Friday evening, a letter arrived at her apartment. The envelope was thick, expensive paper. Her name was written in elegant handwriting: Sofia Martinez. Inside was a single page, also in that same handwriting. Ms. Martinez, I paid your student loans because I could and because you shouldn't have to carry that burden. Consider it a gift with no strings attached. However, I would now like to meet you. If you're willing, please come to the Four Seasons Hotel, Penthouse Suite, this Saturday at 7 p.m. I look forward to finally knowing you. Nathan. That was it, just one name. No phone number, no explanation of how he knew her, no indication of who he was. Catalina, when Sophia showed her the letter, practically screamed. This is insane. This is either the most romantic thing I've ever heard, or this is how people get murdered on true crime documentaries. I can't go, Sophia said immediately. You absolutely have to go, Catalina said. Do you know how many women would kill for this? A mysterious billionaire. I don't know he's a billionaire. Someone who can pay off $237,000 in student loans like it's nothing is definitely a billionaire. And he wants to meet you at the Four Seasons. You're going. Sophia wanted to say no. Every rational part of her brain was screaming no. This was creepy. This was controlling. This was the beginning of a kidnapping. But another part of her, the part that was tired of carrying debt, tired of worry, tired of living in a holding pattern, wanted to know who Nathan was. She went. The Four Seasons penthouse was exactly what Sophia expected. Luxurious, expensive, and completely beyond her experience. The private elevator opened directly into the suite. A man stood waiting for her. He was tall, maybe 62, with warm dark skin and perfectly maintained hair. He was wearing an expensive suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent. His dark eyes were focused entirely on her. He was handsome in a way that didn't make sense. Handsome people weren't supposed to exist outside of movies. But here he was, in three-dimensional reality, looking at her like she was the most interesting thing he'd ever seen. Sophia, he said, and his voice was deep and warm. I'm Nathan. Nathan who? She asked, not moving further into the penthouse. Nathan Steele, and before you ask, yes, Steele Industries is my company. Yes, I'm the billionaire. And yes, I paid your student loans. Sophia's first instinct was to leave, to turn around, get back in that elevator, and never speak to this man again. But she was rooted in place. Why? She asked. Because I wanted to meet you, he said simply, and I knew you wouldn't meet me unless I did something dramatic. Your student loan debt was the thing standing between you and your freedom, so I removed it. That's not how normal people meet, Sophia said, her voice shaking with anger. Normal people exchange phone numbers. Normal people have coffee. You don't. You don't pay off someone's debt without permission and then demand they meet you. No, Nathan agreed. Nor do normal people build billion-dollar companies before they're 35. I'm not a normal person, Sophia. And you're not a normal woman. That's why I wanted to meet you. You don't know me, Sophia said. I know that you scored a 167 on the LSAT but chose not to go to law school, Nathan said. I know that you graduated summa cum laude with a business degree, not because you needed to prove anything, but because you actually wanted to understand how business works. I know that you've been working at Richardson Consulting for 4 years, and that you've done the job of a senior analyst without the title or the pay. I know that you give 15% of your already stretched income to charity, even though you're buried in debt. I know that you visit your parents every Sunday even though they live an hour away. I know that you're brilliant and kind and completely unaware of your own power. Sophia's hands were shaking. How do you know all of that? She whispered. Because I've been watching you, Nathan said. For 3 years I've been watching you work, watching you struggle, watching you be extraordinary despite carrying a weight that would break most people. That's not romantic, Sophia said, backing toward the elevator. That's stalking. It is stalking, Nathan agreed. And I'm sorry, but I'm also not sorry, Because 3 years of watching you convinced me that you're the only woman I've ever met who I could actually build a life with. So I'm here to ask you directly, will you marry me? Sophia stared at him. You're insane, she said. Possibly, Nathan said, but I'm serious. Marry me. Not because you owe me anything. The student loans are a gift with 0 strings attached. Marry me because you might feel, somewhere deep inside, what I feel when I look at you. I don't even know you, Sophia said. Then let's fix that, Nathan said. Spend time with me. Let me know you properly, not through surveillance but through real conversation and real time. Give me 3 months. After 3 months, if you don't feel what I feel, I'll let you go and you'll never hear from me again. Sophia should have left. She should have gotten in that elevator and never returned. Instead, she heard herself say, I need time to think. I'll call you tomorrow, Nathan said. And Sophia, I'm not going to stop. I've spent 3 years waiting for you. Now that I finally have your attention, I'm not letting you go. That night, Sophia couldn't sleep. She lay in bed thinking about what Nathan had said. She thought about the fact that he'd paid off her student loans. She thought about the fact that he'd been watching her. She thought about the fact that she'd felt something when she looked at him. A pull, a recognition, a sense that meeting him was somehow inevitable. It was crazy. But so was her life. Who was she to judge crazy when she was living a life of quiet desperation, crushed under the weight of debt? Nathan called the next morning. Have you thought about my proposal? He asked. You didn't propose, Sophia said. You demanded marriage from a stranger. I'm demanding it again, Nathan said. Marry me, Sophia, or at least give me the 3 months. Against every instinct, against every rational thought in her head, Sophia said yes. She said yes to the lunches he started taking her to. She said yes to the dinners at restaurants she couldn't pronounce. She said yes to the way he looked at her like she was the only woman in the world. She said yes to his stories about building his company from nothing, about his vision to change technology, about his loneliness at the top. And somewhere in those 3 months, something shifted. Sophia realized that Nathan was right. She did feel something. It wasn't love. Not yet. It was possibility. It was the feeling that maybe, just maybe, she didn't have to carry her life alone. Maybe, just maybe, there was someone who could see her and want her and choose her. So when Nathan proposed, with a diamond ring that cost more than her first house would, Sophia said yes. She was marrying a man she'd known for 3 months, a man who'd paid off her debt without permission, a man who admitted to stalking her. But she was saying yes anyway. Because maybe love wasn't logical. Maybe love was finding someone who saw you completely and choosing to let them in despite the risk. CTA, one end of episode 1. Sophia said yes to marriage with a man she barely knows, a man who controls her through money and obsession. But she doesn't realize Nathan Steele has a secret. He paid her student loans for a reason that has nothing to do with love. Subscribe right now and don't miss the moment in this story. For the first 3 months of their engagement, Sophia lived in a fantasy. Nathan gave her everything. A new penthouse apartment, hers to keep, even if they broke up, he said. A new wardrobe of designer clothes, access to his private jet, introduction to his social circle of billionaires and celebrities. But more than the material things, Nathan gave her attention. He called her every morning. He text-messaged her throughout the day. He rearranged his schedule to have dinner with her every night. He talked about his vision for the future, a future that included her at the center of everything. I'm going to build you into an empire, he told her one night at dinner. You have a brain like few people I've ever met. We're going to change the world together. It sounded perfect. It sounded like destiny. Sophia told herself she was happy, and maybe she was. Or maybe she was just so relieved to not have to worry about money anymore that she was willing to overlook the fact that Nathan was still somewhat controlling. He still tracked her location. He still wanted to know where she was and who she was with at all times. "It's not control," he said when she mentioned it. "It's protection. I know the world better than you do. I know what happens to billionaires' fiancés. I need to keep you safe." It made sense, didn't it? The truth came out on a Friday afternoon when Sophia stopped by Nathan's office unannounced. She wanted to surprise him for lunch. She brought sandwiches from his favorite deli. She was excited to see him. His assistant tried to stop her from going into his office, but Sophia was already through the door. Nathan was on a video call. She could see his face on his monitor, and she could also see the other person he was talking to, a man she didn't recognize. "The plan is working perfectly," Nathan was saying. "Sophia is completely under control. She thinks she's in love with me. She'll sign the prenup without reading it. By next month we'll be married, and I'll have complete legal access to her finances and her mind." Sophia froze. "She's perfect for the vision," the man on the screen said. "Young, intelligent, vulnerable. She was carrying debt that made her pliable. Once you removed that debt, she became putty in your hands." "Exactly," Nathan said. "In 6 months, she'll be completely dependent on me. In a year, she won't even remember the person she was before me. In 5 years, she'll be part of my empire, exactly as I planned." Sophia couldn't breathe. Nathan was still talking, completely unaware she was there. The student loan payoff was the perfect bait. Everyone responds to having their debt forgiven. She had no choice but to believe there was something special about it. Now I own her. Sophia backed out of the office without making a sound. She walked out of the building, she walked to the street, she hailed a cab. And then when she was safely in that cab, she started shaking. Nathan had planned all of this. The student loan payoff wasn't a gift. It was a trap. The attention he'd given her over 3 months wasn't love. It was grooming. She was being systematically manipulated by a man who saw her as a piece in his larger game. She had been so desperate to escape her debt and her lonely life that she'd walked straight into captivity. She couldn't tell Nathan she knew. He was too smart, too powerful. If he knew she'd discovered his plan, he'd find a way to neutralize her. She'd seen how people handled business problems. He'd handle her the same way, systematically, thoroughly, without remorse. So Sophia pretended. She went home to the apartment he'd given her, and she pretended to be confused about what she'd heard. She called him an hour later and said she wasn't feeling well, that she must have imagined the overheard conversation. Nathan believed her, or pretended to believe her. Either way, he continued as if nothing had happened. That night, Sophia did something illegal. She broke into Nathan's office. She still had the key card he'd given her, and stole copies of his financial records, his business plans, and the prenup he'd mentioned to his colleague. The prenup was everything she feared. If they married and then divorced, Nathan would get everything. All her personal assets would become his. He had written it in such a way that she would have no legal recourse. And there was more, correspondence showing that Nathan had been planning this for years. There were photographs of her from her apartment. There were recordings of her conversations. There were files tracking her movements. He had been obsessed with her not for 3 years, but for 5 years, since she was 23 years old. Sophia realized that she was in more danger than she'd initially understood. She wasn't dealing with a controlling man. She was dealing with a predator. She needed help, she needed resources, she needed power. So she called her friend Catalina. "I need your brother," she said, "the lawyer, and I need him tonight." Catalina's brother, Diego, was a criminal defense attorney who'd made a name for himself taking on impossible cases. When Sophia showed him the files she'd stolen from Nathan's office, his face went pale. "This is all admissible in court," Diego said. "This is also seriously illegal what he's doing. This is stalking, fraud, coercive control, and financial abuse before the abuse even technically started." "Can you protect me?" Sophia asked. From a billionaire with unlimited resources, Diego said honestly. It will be extremely difficult, but we can try. First, we get you out of that apartment. We get you somewhere safe. Then we document everything. Then we build a case so strong that he can't touch you. What about the money he gave me? Sophia asked. The $237,000, will he try to get it back? Possibly, Diego said. But given how he obtained it, through predatory means, we can argue that it's yours to keep as compensation for emotional distress and fraud. Moving out of Nathan's penthouse, without alerting him, was the hardest thing Sophia had ever done. She couldn't pack suitcases because he would notice. She couldn't leave a note because that would alert him. She had to simply disappear. With Diego's help, she went to Nathan's office, because she knew he had a meeting that would keep him occupied for 3 hours, and she deleted the surveillance programs he'd installed on her phone. She cleared the location tracking from his system. She wiped herself from his digital world as much as possible. Then she left. She took nothing but the clothes she was wearing and her phone. She left behind the designer clothes, the jewelry, the penthouse. She left behind the life Nathan had built for her. She went to a safe house that Diego had arranged, a colleague's apartment in a different part of D.C. where Nathan wouldn't think to look for her. And then she waited for Nathan's reaction. It came in the form of a phone call, then a text, then flowers at her workplace, then a check for $5 million mailed to her parents' house with a note saying, "Come back to me and I'll give you this and more." Then the calls came from Nathan's lawyers. "My client wants to settle this amicably," they said. "He's willing to give you $50 million if you sign an NDA and return to the relationship." "I'm not going back," Sophia said. "Then he'll sue you for stealing his proprietary documents," they said. "He'll make sure you spend the rest of your life in court and in debt. He has unlimited resources. You have nothing." But Sophia had something Nathan didn't expect. She had Diego, and she had evidence, and she had courage. Diego filed a lawsuit first. He sued Nathan for stalking, fraud, emotional distress, and attempted coercive control. He presented all the evidence, the photographs, the recordings, the financial records that showed Nathan had been orchestrating her life for 5 years. The case was immediately picked up by the media. Billionaire tech CEO accused of stalking and predatory behavior, the headlines screamed. Suddenly, Nathan wasn't just a powerful businessman, he was a predator. And Sophia wasn't just a victim, she was brave for standing up to him. Nathan's lawyers fought viciously. They tried to discredit her. They tried to claim she was lying for attention. They tried to paint her as a gold digger trying to take advantage of their client. But the evidence was undeniable. In the end, the settlement was staggering. Nathan had to pay Sophia $100 million in damages. He had to agree to cease all contact with her. He had to publicly apologize for his actions. And he had to watch his empire begin to crumble. Clients started leaving. Board members started asking questions. Investors started pulling out. The company that he'd spent years building began to fall apart because his reputation was destroyed. With the settlement money, Sophia did something no one expected. She created a foundation to help other women escape predatory relationships. She used her visibility and her platform to tell her story and to encourage other women to come forward. She became an advocate, she became powerful. And Nathan, he fell. His company was broken up. His assets were frozen pending additional lawsuits. His name became synonymous with predatory behavior and unchecked power. He tried to start over with a new company, but no one would work with him. He tried to date other women, but they recognized him and ran. By the time a year had passed, Nathan Steele had become a cautionary tale. 1 year after the settlement, Sophia was thriving. Her foundation, Breaking Free, had helped 342 women escape abusive relationships. She'd been on news programs talking about predatory behavior in dating and business. She'd written an article for the New York Times about the mechanisms of manipulation that had gone viral. She was recognized on the street. She was invited to speak at colleges. Young women approached her to say that her story had saved their lives. But the best part was simple: she was at peace. She had a small apartment that she decorated herself. She had a job at a nonprofit that gave her meaning. She had friends who loved her for who she was, not what they could get from her. She had security not from a billionaire's protection, but from her own knowledge and strength. It was quiet, it was humble, it was everything she'd ever wanted. And then Marcus Steele entered her life. Sophia was speaking at Georgetown University, giving a talk to business students about predatory behavior in corporate environments. She was midway through her presentation when she noticed him in the back of the room. He was unmistakably related to Nathan. He had the same dark skin, the same sharp features, the same commanding presence. But he was different, older, maybe 45, more refined, more controlled. When the presentation ended, he waited until the room had emptied. Then he approached her. "Ms. Martinez," he said, extending his hand. "I'm Marcus Steele, Nathan's brother." Sophia's first instinct was to run, but she forced herself to stay calm. "I don't have anything to say to you," she said, not taking his hand. "I suspected you might say that," Marcus said, dropping his hand. "But I ask that you give me 5 minutes, that's all. 5 minutes to say something I've needed to say for a year." Against her better judgment, Sophia listened. "I want you to know," Marcus said slowly, "that Nathan does not represent me or my family. His behavior was abhorrent. His obsession with you was pathological, and I am deeply sorry for what he put you through." Sophia said nothing. "I've spent the last year trying to understand how my brother became so broken," Marcus continued. "How he lost sight of the humanity in other people. And I want you to know that I've removed him from all positions of power within my companies. I'm ensuring that his victims are compensated, and I'm dedicated to making sure this never happens again." "Why are you telling me this?" Sophia asked warily. "Because I want to help you," Marcus said. "Your foundation is doing important work, but it's underfunded. You could help so many more women if you had resources. I want to donate $50 million to Breaking Free." Sophia stared at him. "I don't want your money," she said. "I know," Marcus said. "That's why I think you should take it. Not because it comes from me or because you owe me anything, but because those 342 women have already been helped, and imagine how many more women could be helped with proper funding." Sophia didn't say yes immediately. She spent weeks investigating Marcus. She had Diego look into him. She talked to people who knew him. What she found was surprising. Marcus Steele was nothing like his brother. Where Nathan had made his money through manipulation and fraud, Marcus had built his empire through innovation and genuine business acumen. Where Nathan was obsessed with control, Marcus was known for empowering his employees. Most surprisingly, Marcus had quietly donated over $1 billion to various charitable causes over the past decade. He'd simply never publicized it. "He's different from Nathan," Diego confirmed after his investigation. "Completely different. His money is clean. His reputation is solid. His offer seems genuine." "But why would he want to help me?" Sophia asked. "Guilt, maybe," Diego said. "Responsibility for his brother's actions, or maybe he just sees something in your work that he believes in." Sophia decided to meet with Marcus again. This time she agreed to a meeting at a coffee shop, neutral territory, very public, to discuss the donation. "I want to be clear about something," Sophia said when they sat down. "I don't want this donation to come with any expectations, no strings attached, not to your company, not to you personally. You give the money to the foundation and then we're done. I'm not going to be grateful. I'm not going to feel indebted. Do you understand?" "I understand," Marcus said, "and I agree completely. The money is a gift with no expectations and no strings. Then why would you do it? Sophia asked. Marcus paused for a long time before answering. Because the truth is, he said carefully, I didn't know my brother was a predator until you exposed him. And that failure, my failure to see what he was doing, has haunted me. This donation is my way of trying to make sure that my family's sins don't result in more victims. It's not about redemption. Redemption isn't possible here. It's about responsibility. Sophia believed him. Over the next 6 months, Marcus became a supporter of breaking free. He didn't participate in the day-to-day work. He didn't try to control how Sophia ran things. He simply provided resources and occasionally asked thoughtful questions about the work. But he also started appearing at events, and Sophia started looking forward to seeing him. It was subtle at first. She'd notice when he was in the room. She'd be conscious of how she looked or what she said. She'd find herself curious about his opinions. Then one day, while reviewing funding proposals together, Marcus said something funny and Sophia laughed, and when she looked at him, she realized he was looking at her in a particular way. A way that made her uncomfortable. We shouldn't do this, Sophia said immediately. I'm not asking for anything, Marcus said, but I want you to know that I'm interested. When you're ready, if you're ever ready, I'm here. I can't, Sophia said. You're Nathan's brother. You're connected to my trauma. This would be a terrible idea. I know, Marcus said. That's why I'll wait. Despite Sophia's best efforts to maintain professional distance, something shifted. She started seeing Marcus differently, not as Nathan's brother, but as a separate person, not as a predator, but as someone genuinely trying to be better. And slowly, over a year, Marcus won her over. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't a moment of sudden romance. It was a gradual realization that Marcus was trustworthy, that Marcus respected her autonomy, that Marcus wasn't trying to control her or manipulate her or own her. When he kissed her for the first time, it was because Sophia initiated it. I'm terrified, she told him. My judgment in men is clearly terrible. I know, Marcus said, but I'm going to spend the rest of my life proving to you that some men are different, if you'll let me. What Sophia didn't expect was how different a healthy relationship could be. With Nathan, she had been constantly walking on eggshells, constantly trying to do things right so he wouldn't be disappointed. With Marcus, she was simply herself. He didn't try to change her. He didn't track her location. He didn't expect her to account for every moment of her time. He supported her work at the foundation without trying to control it. When Sophia was offered a book deal to write her memoir, Marcus encouraged her. When she wanted to spend a weekend with her parents, Marcus didn't make it about him. When she said she needed space to process her feelings, Marcus gave her space. It was revolutionary. How is this possible? She asked him one evening. How are you just normal after growing up with Nathan? Because, Marcus said, I made a choice a long time ago not to be like my father who was controlling and abusive, and I've spent my life trying to build the opposite of that. It's not easy, but it's important. Marcus didn't propose with a $500,000 diamond ring. He proposed with a simple silver band and a question asked quietly in their apartment. Will you marry me? Not because I own you, not because I've trapped you, not because I expect anything in return, just because I love you and want to build a life with you, a real life where we're equal partners. And Sophia said yes. Not because she was desperate or lonely or afraid, but because she wanted to, because she chose to, because for the first time in her life, love felt like freedom instead of captivity. Moral of this story. This is a story about what happens when you pay attention to red flags. Nathan paid off Sophia's debt and she almost sacrificed everything for it. But when she found the truth, she didn't stay. She didn't minimize his behavior. She didn't convince herself that love was worth the loss of freedom. She got help, she fought back, she won. And then she learned that love doesn't have to be dramatic or dangerous or controlling to be real. Marcus offers her something different than Nathan. He offers her a partner, not a master. He offers her choice, not coercion. He offers her support, not surveillance. The most important thing Sophia learned is this: the opposite of a controlling relationship isn't independence. It's partnership. It's someone who loves you enough to let you be fully yourself, fully autonomous, fully free. Sophia married Marcus because she wanted to, not because she had to. And that choice, that real, free, genuine choice, was the beginning of a life that was actually happy. Thank you for watching. Subscribe now if you haven't. I will see you in the next video.